you're a wife guy. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's like reverse daddy issues. If you grow up with a really great dad, then you're just not, attracted to men who sort of don't meet that standard.
Mm-hmm.
All you guys do is ride bikes, eat ice cream, and have sex. That seems to be your whole relationship.
You've just described my heaven. I love dads who dad.
Com Deus me deito, com Deus me levanto, comigo eu falo, comigo eu canto, eu bato papo, eu bato ponto, eu tomo drink.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boy Problems. Today, we have two iconic guests. I am thrilled to be back in studio. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you will see that we are in person. We can high-five in person.
Okay, cool.
And I'm high-fiving one of my heroes, Tony Goldwyn, who I've known for a while. Because back in 2016, if you're Gen Z, you were only 3 years old when that happened in 2016. There was a person running for president for the first time who's now in office again. I had this idea for a sketch because I was a big fan of Tony. I still am. And at the time, you were doing Scandal. And so you were the president of the United States, a very emotionally unavailable president of the United States. Basically, I had this idea of like giving you what a woman wishes a male president would say on behalf of women. And so you did a phenomenal job. You showed up on set. I just gave you this script. It was on prompter, and you like knew it by heart.
I can't remember.
You were so natural.
I remember you had a set. You had a an Oval
It was
Office.
A White House. Yeah, the YouTube made this White House Oval Office. Let's play a little bit of it now.
Okay, here you go, Mr. President.
Oh, are you the new speechwriter?
Yeah, sure. New speechwriter.
Okay, we're live in 3, 2, 1.
My fellow Americans, but mostly the dudes, we need to talk about some stuff just between us, from one Broseph Gordon-Levitt to another. 2016 has been a really f***ing annoying year for women. And they've put up with a lot of shit. Brock Turner, the Zika virus, Ryan Gosling having a second baby. It's been tough.
But you were just incredible, and I was so blown away. And then I got to interview you again for Man Enough. And here you are with your daughter, Anna. And the both of you have an incredible podcast that you just started where you interview. It's sort of a play on the Nepo baby, which is a slur, but you are reclaiming it and talking about what it's like when a parent and a daughter or son are working in the same industry.
Exactly.
And that sort of family business model, which happens in a lot of families. I'm so happy to have you both here. If you're not familiar with Tony Goldwyn, he's one of those men that you think you know until you remember he's been everyone. He is the friend who betrays you on Ghost. He's the president you definitely shouldn't text back on Scandal. And he's also the voice of Tarzan from 1999, my favorite movie. I didn't realize that was your voice.
Yep, that's me.
That's
now,
you.
Now that's all
You've
you'll
done
hear
it
next
all.
time you watch Tarzan.
You were so prolific. I was researching you to write this intro. You directed episodes of The L Word.
I did, yeah. That was the first television show
Grey's
I directed.
Anatomy before you were on Scandal. You were also in the new movie One Battle After Another. You're a busy man, but we really appreciate that you took the time to come here today. And then Anna, your daughter, is just as legendary. She's a writer, activist, and unapologetic truth teller who's worked on shows like Supergirl, Partner Track. You co-founded Political Playlist to help civic engagement, and you somehow have the time to co-host a podcast with your dad, which I'm very jealous of because I've been trying to get my dad to do a podcast with me for years, and he refuses to.
Okay, Dad.
Andrew
you
Plank,
need to do
speak
it.
to Andrew Plank directly.
Time to make it happen.
Andrew, I'm telling you, you will not regret it. You'll think, I don't know what I'm doing. Why should I even do this? And then you'll do it and you'll say, I'm so glad I did it. What a great thing to do with Liz.
Because you'll forget people are listening to it and you'll just chat.
That's right. Those are the best podcasts. Do you ever think about people listening? Because I never do, and that's why it's so fun.
Yeah,
and
when the conversation's good.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just connecting and people are connecting with you. I think it's so great. Tony and Anna, welcome to Boy Problems. Is there a memorable boy problem that Anna came to you with?
Well, I thought of one, but I'm curious what.
Well, the most memorable one to me was not a major one in your life. One of the ones that was most memorable was before you met Billy, her husband. You had gone through a string of just assholes. Guys who, and everything in your life, her life was going great. She had this great job. Her career was going well, everything. And this was an area where Anna was really struggling and feeling like I'm never going to meet someone that it's going to work out. And so, you were dating some guy you'd seen a few times. You've been on a few dates with him, and you were feeling like he's a really good guy. And I'm like, and we went out to, we were in LA, and we went out to lunch. It was like a Sunday. We'd gone to yoga together or something like that. We were having lunch at Cafe Gratitude.
Love.
Sitting on the Rose Avenue. And you were talking, and you get a text. Maybe the guy had been ghosting you a bit. Maybe that was the thing. And you were stressed because he wasn't responding to your texts. And while we're sitting at lunch, you get a text from this guy basically saying, I'm just not into it.
No.
And as a father, to be sitting across from you and like tears just started streaming down your face. And I was felt completely at a loss to know how to even deal. Like, okay, you got to go. Because as a dad, I knew there's lots of tumult in everybody's life. Before you started dating, one of my greatest dread was knowing that I was going to have to live through both of my daughters being heartbroken. Because I remember, we all have pain in our lives. I don't know that there's any pain more acute.
I agree.
Than having your heart broken. I mean, literally at 13 years old was the first time I had my heart broken. I was like, nothing has ever been as painful as that.
Same.
17,
yes. I thought I would love this person for the rest of my life. I thought I would feel this pain for the rest of my life. And that's how you feel, even if you've been through it many times. It still does not get easier to deal with that kind of news, right?
Yeah. But you know what's wild is that was the last person that I dated before I met my husband.
Wow.
Is that right? So you remember what I'm talking about?
I do, yes. And I was doing a triathlon the next day, and he dumped me the day before I was about to do a triathlon. And I was all excited for him to come to the triathlon.
He couldn't have waited one day. I mean, come on.
He didn't want to come. He didn't want to come see it. My memory was much more dramatic, by the way. So I'm glad we went with that one.
What's your memory?
I mean, it makes me sound a little bit crazy, but we all were a little bit crazy.
Everyone's nuts. It's fine.
I dated a guy who was not a great person to date, and I mistakenly stood him up because he was like being very wishy-washy and making plans, and I was like trying to play it cool, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be a little bit late, I think he's with his friends. And he was not with his friends, he was waiting for me, and I like lost it. I was so mad at myself for trying to be so cool that I literally went to your house, Dad, when was like sobbing, and I think I slept over at your house. You obviously don't remember this.
I know, I do remember that. I do remember because I remember who it was. We shouldn't say his name. I remember you came. That's right. Yeah.
Do you have nicknames when you talk about boys to your dad before Billy?
No, we don't.
No.
Like evil, like Voldemort.
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
You are allowed to swear on this
You mean face?
This one could be defined by like his job. I would say it was a very unique job.
She had a unique job, so we were always the blank.
The blank. Don't want to insult a whole profession.
He was probably he seemed like a pretty nice guy, but just not a good.
Yeah, very immature.
Yeah, very immature, and that's funny. I remember that. Yeah, you crawled into bed with me, and you were so bereft.
Oh my God, I was like screaming, crying. It was very. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, that was a little bit much.
No, but being in your early 20s, going through that, and
I think when there's a quote unquote mistake in a dating situation, especially if you're very excited about the idea of meeting someone, if you feel like you fucked it up, I think it can trigger. I don't know. As a woman, I feel that, and you're like, oh my God, I'm the reason this is never going to work out for me. Whereas like in this particular case, clearly, if it's meant to happen for you, like you can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a basic adage. Is it an adage?
Adage.
I don't know, but I like it.
Okay. I don't.
We're back in French.
Adage. It's a saying that's sort of basic, but I think it's really true. I think there are a lot of people who listen to this podcast. I would say 90% of our questions are about dating. A lot of people are struggling with dating today, and there are a lot of obstacles, to relationships. I think especially between men and women, miscommunications, right? We're differently wired. We're also differently raised. I relate to that, to just having a total breakdown over a small mistake, because then I think I'm never going to find love. It's my fault.
I also think that like as a person who is very like extroverted and forward like myself, I was constantly like on guard when I was younger about being like all of that, like diving 2 feet in, like all into liking somebody. And so I was like consciously trying to just like not be so into it. And then I pushed that so far to the point where I literally stood somebody up by mistake. And it was like, oh my God, I was trying so hard to not be myself that I ended up like doing something kind of mean.
Sabotaging yourself. Wow, right.
Yeah.
We kept dating after that, but it was not good.
But also, if that's enough to make them go away, then they were never meant for you anyways, right?
And he didn't go away after that. That was the kind of relationship I always felt, like, not something a father should say to his daughter. I always felt that relationship was a bit of a sexual addiction.
Oh, wow.
Because
on his part?
No, well, maybe on both,
On
but on
both.
Anna's.
That's more than
He was all, like, I think the guy was very attractive and very, like,
He was, yeah.
given his job, fantasy fulfillment. And it was kind of a very intense hookup kind of relationship. And Anna ended up really liking him, and he seemed like a good guy. But it was very always convenient. It was one of those things with young people where it tended always to be on his terms of when they would hook up and when they wouldn't, and then he'd just show up. And so it was both like hot, but up. And
my friend would say, all you guys do is ride bikes, eat ice cream, and have sex. That seems to be your whole relationship.
which is basically the male
That's
fantasy.
my dream relationship. You've just described my heaven on earth. I love dads who dad, and you are one of those. Do you know what a dad who dad?
I guess I do.
What do you think it is?
I guess maybe dad is an active verb.
Yes, that's right. You don't just show up as a dad like it's jury duty, but you actually lean into it, right? And I love the way that you talk about your daughters in the media and in interviews. You said that you would be a mess at your daughter's wedding.
Which happened a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And I survived.
Were you
I wasn't a mess.
We were all shocked.
Everyone was shocked because they were like, Dad, it was a joke at our family dinner table that when one of them gets married, I will not make it through my wedding speech. But I actually did.
You did.
Because I had something to say.
Wow.
And I was amazed. I finished it and I didn't cry.
I'm proud of you.
I cried at other times during the wedding, but not then.
Wow. Well, yeah, I think it's so beautiful how you love your daughters out loud.
Yeah.
Was dadding very familiar to you because you had a great dad, or did you have to learn about it on your own?
No, well, both. Yeah, my dad was a super engaged dad. And I know that being a father, he did a lot of things well and a lot of, things successfully, but being a father was the most important thing to him. And then there were certain things I learned, I love him and I'm very grateful for him, but there were certain more old-fashioned modalities of parenting that I decided I wanted to do differently, so that was super helpful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's an example of something that...
Just more keeping an arm's length emotionally. My dad was super affectionate and stuff like that, but he never, until he got older and I was an adult, he felt that he needed, I think he felt, I'm ascribing this to him, I think he felt that he needed to maintain some distance as sort of the authority figure.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about himself much, so that created a kind of, what's the word?
Hierarchy?
A hierarchy, yeah. So he was the pater familias kind of thing, and the one who needed to sort of pass judgment on the child and tell, so there was that more old-fashioned view, and I was like, I think I need to approach it a little differently.
Yeah.
And so, Anna and her sister Tess and I have always had a pretty open, emotional relationship.
Yeah.
We realizing that I am the parent, and especially when they're younger, there's certain things that they can.
Yeah.
I didn't just pour my heart out to, but we have a pretty open communication mutually, I would say.
I can tell because of the two stories you've told me already about sort of most memorable boy problem that you each had, or that you each referenced. I don't know if a lot of women would go to their dads when they're heartbroken. I think a lot of people would go to their moms. I think that's a more maybe common impetus. You feel really safe emotionally with your dad, Anna. Would you say that like more than other women?
I think that like my dad is a very emotional person, like a very emotionally intelligent person. And I think it's something that has to start when you're young, right? Like you create an openness, obviously a lack of judgment, but even I think you have to push beyond a lack of judgment to being like a safe space to go to. Because I think also like, especially when you're talking about dating and stuff like that, a lot of it can be very like embarrassing to talk about or feel kind of shameful or like petty, because like when you're 16 and you have a crush on somebody, like in the grand scheme of life, that's like a very tiny thing. But obviously when you're in it, it feels huge. And I think that's something that my dad's always been very good at, not just in dating, but like even the small problems deserve attention. And I think that that's something that he's very good at, is giving that attention, sometimes too much. Tess and I joke sometimes that like when you ask my dad advice, it's like the best advice ever. And then it just is like a never ending stream of advice. And we're kind of like, okay, like, thank you so much. I actually have to go.
So true.
That's sweet.
Embarrassing, but true.
But that's sweet.
One of them would be like, Dad, stop talking.
Really?
Okay.
I feel that is rare. Again, I'm not, I don't want to judge fathers with this broad stroke, but I do think that even my dad is super progressive, super evolved, very nurturing, but I think he's less emotionally vulnerable than my mother is. So, Tony, what did being a father to daughters teach you about women? Was there anything that you learned along the way that, you're like, oh, this doesn't work, or this is different?
I don't know if this is what it taught me about women. It definitely taught me about people. So one thing Anna mentioned that was a huge thing for me as a parent was realizing when they were young teenagers and through the teenage years, the problems that they would have, which obviously were girls and women's problems, even though they might be labeled as small or maybe trivial from an adult perspective, I quickly realized from a 14-year-old's eyes, whatever that little injustice that happened, be it a boy or one of their girlfriends doing something to them or whatever the dynamics were, is an earth-shattering problem. No smaller, my more adult problem of what I'm dealing with financially or with work or whatever it is, or a marital issue or whatever, big, what we consider bigger life problems. They're not bigger life problems. I don't know if that's true, specifically a female thing.
Because you're living with women.
I'm all surrounded by women, so it's hard to
It's hard to know.
I mean, I was very close to my mother, and I have sisters and 2 daughters. I'm constantly surrounded by women, and we've had mostly female dogs and cats.
Yeah. That's funny.
We did have a male dog when I was younger, and that was like a real win for you.
Wow.
But I had one male dog in my life.
One male dog.
And he died on me.
Oh, I'm
Charlie,
sorry.
where'd you go?
For your loss. So I have an older sister. So my dad is similar to you, sort of the only boy in the house. And I remember actually going to my dad when I think I was 7 or 8 years old. I think I went to this birthday party, and I was the only girl. And speaking of earth-shattering moments, it felt like the end of the world. The fact that I was the only girl, I started crying. I needed my parents to come and get me. I remember going home and then being like, oh my God, my dad is the only boy all the time. So I went up to my dad and I said, like, does it feel hard to be the only boy in the house? And he was like, no. So like, he likes it, right? I think something really sort of shifts when you are surrounded by so many women. And Anna, I wanted to ask you, clearly you grew up with a really great dad, a really nurturing father. The way that it affected me a little bit was it almost set the standard too high for men to reach. Did having like an amazing dad sort of ruin your dating life a little bit?
Probably, yeah. I feel very lucky though, because I also had a lot of male friends growing up who were like really close and to this day still are really close. And I think they were all different types of guys. That probably limited the effect of having this, incredible father on stifling my dating life, because I feel like I was around a lot of men, young men a lot. But I think also it's like it sets a standard, but something that I've had to learn is that doesn't have to be like the only standard. And I think that was what was difficult for me, is it was like, oh, my dad's such a great friend, such a great mentor, like such a great person, so great to talk to. And those things are all true. But I also kind of came to a point in my life where I was like, well, I don't want to marry my dad, like I'm my own person and I'm very different from my dad in a lot of ways. Yes, it did set the standard really high in the sense that like I know how I should feel when I'm with a man in terms of like being respected and being listened to and all of that. But like my husband is really different from my dad. And I think that to me is like a really good thing, because I think that if I had just like always been like, well, I need to find someone just like my dad, then I would have been searching forever. And I also don't think that would have been the right person for me and my personality that would have like complemented what I needed out of like a romantic relationship. Is very different, I think, than, a parent-child relationship.
Billy's totally different than me, very different than me. However, the things that Billy has that I wouldn't say is exactly like me, but that are the most important things to me is he's an incredibly big-hearted and good-hearted person. Salt of the earth, like big heart. That's where he comes from, which I sort of come from my heart as well, just as a person in connecting with people. And Billy's very much like that. And also what you said about respect and adores Anna. Like he's very singular in his respect for you. So as a parent, you go, okay, this guy's totally different type of dude than I am. Those are the qualities that you would hope that your child's partner has. It's like Tessa's boyfriend is the same. Ethan is the same. They're, again, very different than Billy, but have those same qualities. And I wonder if, like, having men in your life, both me and your best friends from high school who were all dudes, all the guys, and like Anna said, all different. Every one of those guys are like big-hearted, like good people.
Yeah, because I think that's what matters, like the core, right? Is how you relate to someone's heart and how you relate to someone's needs emotionally. And I think then all the other like personality stuff, it ends up being really different. You know, every person you date is different. Every person you meet is different. I mean, you and Billy are similar, but I like that you're different. It makes me feel like I'm a more well-rounded person for having different types of people in my relationships.
And I didn't mean looking for your dad in like a romantic partner. Like,
I mean, trust me, at one point I was like, that's what
you did. Well, I get that. I think my dad drives me nuts. Me and my dad have like reverse mental illnesses. We drive each other really, really, really crazy because he puts so much attention to detail. I don't. I'm allergic to detail. I don't think I could ever sort of date a guy who has the same characteristics. But because my dad was so involved, splitting household chores. Like my dad was around in many ways actually more than my mom when I was really young because my mom was an interpreter, so she would be traveling a lot. Sometimes, yeah, when I would hear about my girlfriends, sort of complain and say, oh, my boyfriend never picks up after himself, or like, how do I get and sometimes it's even hard for me to relate to some of those questions we get, like, how do I get my boyfriend to clean up after himself? I'm like, what? I don't think I could ever really be with a partner who's not sort of minded in that way. It's like reverse daddy issues. You just like, if you grow up with a really great dad, it's then you're just not, attracted to men who sort of don't meet that standard. Mm-hmm. It can be tough.
I was going to say, I think that like that kind of a thing of like someone's values and what they expect in a relationship, I feel like that comes out quick. Like that about somebody pretty quickly. And like, I feel the same, like I feel like my parents are like a power couple. Like they're both always doing everything and like succeeding in everything. And
not true.
In the grand scheme of things, over the trajectory of my life.
True. Yes, true.
I don't use the term power couple to be like demeaning about it. I think that it's like a really amazing thing. It's like there's this like true equality and respect, kind of like you're saying with your dad. And I think that I feel like you can suss those people out pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. You can tell. You're a wife guy. Do you know what that is?
No.
Do you know what a wife guy is, Anna?
I can guess again.
You can guess? Yeah,
Do you want me to guess what a wife guy?
Yes, guess what a wife guy is.
A guy who puts his relationship with his wife at the center of his life in a way.
That's right. Yeah. I want to get into some boy problems.
Sure.
Because we have some amazing ones today. So this is from Ben. Liz, I need your help. We were watching Gone Girl. Have you seen Gone Girl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about halfway through, she asked if I thought Rosamund Pike was pretty. I said, yeah, reflexively, like you'd answer, is water wet? She paused the movie, full stop, looked at me and said, you didn't have to say it that fast. Then she rewound 30 seconds, hit play, and didn't say another word. I didn't know girls can give you a timeout for honesty. Am I supposed to lie slower?
I have an answer for that.
You do?
Well, it's necessary to be honest all the time. That is critically important. It is not necessary to say everything that you're thinking. Without thinking, how is this going to be received by my partner, or how would I feel if she just knee-jerk said that about a guy? And also, I would say this is a stereotype, so forgive me, female members of the audience. In general, I have found that saying that to a woman, particularly in our society where women are so judged for their looks and their sexuality and all this stuff, in a way that guys get an easier time of it. Anything I feel, where like if Jane and I were watching the team, was like, God, that guy's so hot, I would be like, that would prick me a bit. It would be hard for me to hear. Yeah. And for a woman, it's probably 10 times as hard to hear. So that kind of thing is like, but I honestly am censoring myself all the time.
Yeah.
And Jane is someone who's very self-confident, very like seeming like, I don't care about it, that kind of thing. I have learned to become I'm not going to say that because that'll just hurt her feelings. Why do I want to share something, an observation of mine that's going to hurt her feelings? Why would I do that?
Yes. And it's not information that she needs to hear,
exactly.
Right? If it's information that you need to share, then that's a different, equation. But if it's to no benefit to the person or to the woman in this case, and you don't have to say it, then don't say it.
Can I give a slightly conflicting answer?
Oh, Anna's a different answer. Go, Anna.
Go.
I disagree.
Cool.
Ooh.
I just think that like Rosamund Pike is like an objectively beautiful person. She's also not, I think if it's like a girl on the street that you pass and they're like, oh, do you think that girl's pretty? That's maybe a little bit different because it's like, it's just like an everyday person that you ostensibly could run into at a bar or something like that. But Billy and I talk about how hot people are all the time when we're watching movies. Like, I just think that especially when it's like celebrities, it's like, well, you're never going to go hook up with Rosamund Pike, probably. I don't know what circles this person runs in, but like, I don't know. Personally, that wouldn't bother me at all. I think both answers are correct.
I have a third analysis that's different from the book. I mean, I don't disagree with either of you. I totally see both of your perspectives on it. My perspective is don't ask your boyfriend that.
Oh, she asked him?
She asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he just volunteered it.
No, she asked if I thought she was pretty.
Oh.
And I'm like,
oh, I'm sorry. I
ask a
changed my
question
answer.
You don't want to know the answer.
I changed my answer. I misheard this thing. I thought he just was watching it and said, "Oh, she's so pretty."
Yeah.
Oh no! Then I completely changed my answer. I mean, do not ask a question that you do not want the answer to. Exactly. That is completely on her and my perception. I'm sorry. Forgive me, Ben. I'm sorry. I disagree. That's on your girlfriend. To me, that's manipulative to do that.
Yeah. It's like, do you guys remember? Well, you probably are not on TikTok, and you have a.
I just got on TikTok recently.
You did?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Be careful.
I'm being careful.
Okay. It's just it'll suck
Anna's
you right
a dead. Stay off it.
But basically, there was this trend, I would say about a year ago. Women would go up to men, their boyfriends or their husbands, and they would say, name a woman. And then the guy would have to name the first woman to come to mind. And so many of them said Sydney Sweeney. And she'd be like, you wouldn't say me? Like, if I'm just like, name a woman, wouldn't you name me? And then women were mad at their boyfriends or husbands if they said like a hot
That's such
woman.
a trap. I'm sorry. That's not okay.
It is. And then there was this other test. It was the orange peel test. Did you hear about this? No. So basically, I don't think this one is as evil. You grab an orange or a clementine, and then in the presence of your significant other, again, boyfriend or husband, you say, oh, I really want an orange, but I don't want to peel it. And then you just see what he does. Does he take the orange and peel it for you, or does he not do anything? And I think that's a little bit more scientific, because it's a bid for attention, which is a whole theory with the Gottman Institute. It's like the couples that are least likely to survive are the ones that don't respond to each other's bids of attention. So it can be as small as like, oh, look, there's a cute bird out there, to, oh, I wish I could peel this orange. And, for you to notice as a partner and be like, oh, it's easy for me to peel this for her. I'll just do it. Or do you disagree? Do you think it's not an accurate?
Here's what I would say. If you're like in a new relationship and you're just going to want to check out how this person, without it being overly loaded, that feels a little manipulative to me to say, I really would like an orange, but I don't feel like peeling it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have nails, I just did my nails and I thought, oh, that looks really good. It's a little manipulative. There's also a part of me that's like, well,
it's a test.
That's in terms of being a self-empowered person, male or female, that I can take care of myself. Because honestly, for me as a man, if I were with a girl who's like, oh, I can't peel my own orange, I really don't feel like peeling that, I would probably peel it for her, given my person. Going, oh, I want to do that for you. I like doing something. But there's a part of me going,
peel it yourself.
Yeah.
I also want someone who can take care of themselves. If I want you to do something for me.
Can you peel this orange for me? Yeah. And then if they're like, I'm busy, then that's not great.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or just doesn't respond. But that's a good one, because then you're being direct. And the way that because I watched a bunch of them, it was a little damsel in distress, where it was like, oh, I just don't want to do it, and
it's passive aggressive.
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
And I also think to get like super feminist about it, it's kind of like some people obviously don't subscribe to these kinds of values, but for me and like the women that I know, like I don't want to ever feel like, oh my God, I can't do it. Like, or if I can't do it, and then I'll be like, I can't do it. Can you do this? I feel like it's so antithetical to how we want to build women up in society, which is like, we should be able to be direct. And like, yes, we should get respect back, but this kind of sort of, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit too like projecting here, but I'm like, that just makes you seem, what, you can't peel an orange?
Yeah, it's so funny because this is, I know my dad is coming up so much in this conversation. When I was, 14 or 15, I rode bikes everywhere, and then I had a flat tire. I didn't do the orange peel theory. I was kind of like, oh, I have a flat tire. Can you fix it? And he looked at me, he was like, well, I'll teach you how to fix a flat tire. And I was so mad at him. I was like, why won't you just fix this for me? And he was like, because then you don't know how to fix it, and the next time you have one and I'm not around, right? And that's love, right?
That's
to me,
love.
When I look back at it, in the moment, I didn't see it.
That's good dadding.
It's good dadding. There we go. And so that the orange peel thing reminds me of that. Okay, I loved your answers. Next boy problem. This is from Sophie. My dad and I only connect when something goes wrong. Breakups, job, drama, car issues. How do you build a relationship that's not just built on emergencies? When I try and talk about feelings, my dad says, I'm not good at that stuff. Then changes the subject to the weather, which ironically is usually bad. How do I get him to stay in the room emotionally?
I mean, part of it, I have to say, you have to love someone for who they are. And if someone is not comfortable, that they just constitutionally aren't comfortable with that. You have to find a different way of communicating with them and not demand that they're going to give you something that it's not in their comfort zone to do. What I would say is maybe the answer is indirect. Like, I find the way that I work at my relationships with my daughters is creating, and they do it too with me, but creating space where we can just be together and do stuff together. And be in proximity. Because when we're in proximity, then communication starts to flow and we share a lot more and are in each other's lives more and end up, as a result, more emotionally intimate. It's not always being able to call a thing a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Totally, so that, yeah. I would say in that situation, because there are a lot of men who, and look, my dad was also not comfortable with that. Honestly, when I was, I think 12 years old or 13 years old and was starting to go through puberty, or maybe I wasn't going through puberty yet and I was worried about it. Okay. Like, am I ever going to go through puberty? And like my friends are more advanced. I tried to talk to my dad about it. He could not do it. Like he would go, oh, he just couldn't do it. And I had a real need to know. I was really, on the other end, my mom was completely open. She goes, yeah, she had no problem talking about sex or anything like that. My dad just couldn't. Mm-hmm. And then as an adult, there were certain things he just couldn't do. And what I realized when I got older with him, we would hang out, and that there were other ways that I get those things from him that I needed emotionally that weren't directly, like I said, calling a thing a thing. So if that makes sense, that's maybe not setting these, it's the same thing with like boyfriends and girlfriends. I expect that you're going to do this for me. And if you don't do that, then we have a problem. Well, maybe that person just isn't comfortable in that situation. That's not who they are. So what do they need? Like, anyway, that's where I'm at.
I love that. And it reminds me of parenting advice I heard recently about teenagers. Get them in a car. Because if you're in the car, then they start talking, right?
100%.
And it's that proximity you're talking about. I think it also simplifies connection, right? Because it's just, okay, if we're in proximity together, if we find a common hobby or thing we like, sports game we like to go watch or movie, right? Then just being in proximity means you'll probably communication.
I was worried about Anna. I haven't even told you this, but when she was 15 years old or whatever, like every teenager, we were super close when she was little. And probably at puberty 13, she just like stopped talking to us. I remember being like trying to talk to her about sex, and she was like, stop talking about that. Whereas when she was 8 or 9 or 10, she would talk about anything. And so I was worried, like, God, how do I get this kid to communicate with me? And literally it was being in the car. Yeah. It was just being in proximity to each other. I never knew when it was going to happen. I could not. I mean, it's a similar analog. Same thing with dealing with my female teenage daughter. I was desperate to have her talk to me. And then we'd be driving and all of a sudden it would come out. And we'd be sitting in the driveway for 45 minutes while she just monologued about something that was going on with her in her life. And I'm like, okay, just don't move a muscle because she might stop talking.
It's like a baby sleeping, but it's a teenager talking. You're like, don't do anything.
I also think there's like value in the things that Sophie says she already talks about with her dad. Like, I think so much of it is wanting something different from people, and we don't often like just look at what's there and like what we can grow from that. And one thing that my mom and I bond over that's really odd is just like medical stuff. Like, we love to talk about what doctors I'm going to, and I've had a lot of like injuries, and my mom is like always wondering what's happening with that doctor, like what happened with this thing. In some ways it's a very surface conversation because it's literally just me like telling her what happened at like the PT session, But I think that what I've learned is like that's a way that she's expressing that she cares about me. So then it's like something that I feel good about, that I can like call. Like, I don't call my dad that much about my medical things unless we're already talking about something else. But I swear, like after every doctor's appointment I have, I just call my mom because I know it's something that she's going to be interested in, even if it's super mundane. So I also think that in those examples that she's giving about like emergencies, it's like, well, what can you kind of build from those emergencies, right? Like if it's about getting in a car accident, is there then a conversation that you have with your dad down the line of like, okay, I'm in my new car, like everything feels good. It's like using those subjects to grow closer to somebody as opposed to thinking that they're superficial subjects, because I think they're not always. And just reporting something to a parent can also feel really good sometimes, I think.
It's so true. I love what you just said. Even my dad, again, very emotionally, aware, but also definitely it's not as easy to connect sometimes, but he, like, this is a perfect example of like coming to get me at the airport. He takes it so seriously. There are times where, let's say I see that there's a flight that gets in later and I'm like, oh, I'll just take an Uber. And I can see, like, for me, it's just like, oh, this is easier for you. I'll just take, and I can see that it's really a moment of connection actually that's important to him. And that, again, I think if some dads are less comfortable with that emotional connection, a lot of dads show affection in things that they feel that they're good at, things that they feel that they can contribute to your life. I mean, I'm not saying fake an emergency or like create problems, but actually problem solving, right? I don't want to say that one gender is better at one thing than the other, but a lot of men are good at problem solving and like to fix things. Yeah, it might not be the ideal way that you want to connect with him. You'd rather, have a one-on-one dinner where you go into detail about all your breakups, but for him, actually connecting over teaching you how to fix that flat tire, I mean, coming back to that might be a way that actually allows you to connect and you both feel good doing that. You're just giving really good advice. And so I want to keep going with one more. Okay, this is from Elizabeth. I've been dating my wonderful boyfriend for almost 2 years. I've had a long string of bad boyfriends and gotten my heart broken plenty of times, so I have a good sense that when I start dating my current partner, let's call him Matt, that things were going to be different. I've known for quite a while now that I want to marry Matt, and we finally have started having serious conversations about what's next. Turns out he doesn't want kids. This came as a pretty big shock to me. I used to be on the fence about kids. I'm 31, so the clock is ticking. Our lives blend so perfectly together, and I truly believe he's my soulmate. I've already started grieving that I might not have kids if I stay with him, but the thought of leaving him is tearing me apart. What should I do?
That's tough.
Wow, that's a hard one.
Well, I would first like to just say that your clock is not ticking. I don't like that phrase.
I agree. 31 is...
My first advice is just remove that from the self-narrative. I mean, I think that's really tough. I think it comes down to, is having kids something that's really important to you? And if it is, you have to just believe that that's the trajectory for your life. And this person was a really important chapter to like get you to know what you're worth and what you deserve in a relationship. And you might have to let it go, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it. Or having a really serious conversation with him of, is it something that he's steadfast on? Because I don't think men don't have like the biological connection to having children. And so I do have friends where, like, not to put like false hope into this person's situation, but like where a guy is sort of like, oh, I don't want kids, then the idea of having a family with the right person comes about and it changes. And so I think it's getting clarity on like, is that like a full stop for him? Or is it just sort of like he is leaning in that direction, and maybe the fact that you guys are so great for each other, that building that family is something that you can at least have him be open to down the road.
I love that. Yes. Seeing if this is a hard no or something he might be open to. Like, there's a spectrum of yes and no, and like, where is he on that spectrum, basically?
I also think that it's worth, if you take what Anna said about take the pressure off yourself about, I'm 31 and the clock is ticking, because it is not. Every major decision, whether it's getting married or having kids or whatever, is only made worse by putting the pressure on yourself. Or time, it's almost impossible to get there. One thing that is like visualizing how you would imagine your life with Matt over the next 30 years. What would that look like without a family, without children? What would that look like? And how do you feel about that if you imagine it? And then if you're like, wow, in my 50s or my 60s, and I want the idea of growing older and having children and grandchildren maybe, and all of that is something that is critical to me. Or if you're like, wow, no, just honestly, we would have such a beautiful life together, and maybe I don't, just sort of what Anna said. But I think the most important part of it, that I would really strongly suggest, if you guys are talking about what our life might be together, really talk about children. Not do you want to have kids or do you not want to have kids, or definitely want to have kids. What is it about having kids? Why do you feel that way? What is it about? Because it's a deeper question, really, like way you visualize your own future. Why do you feel that way? What is it about having kids that makes you feel that way? Is it just an expectation that you've always had of yourself, or is it something that's really important, and why? And same for him, why? And maybe you would get to something like Anna said of him, like, well, no, I don't feel very strong feelings about it, but I just have never sort of seen it. And then you're in a conversation about what would it look like with us? What does that mean? As opposed to these societal judgments that we tend to pressurize ourselves, like, I have to get married, I have to do this, or we have to do this, or if you can't do this, then we have to make a hard decision. Those are sometimes really interesting big conversations that reveal things that we might not have known about each other.
And I think it goes both ways. We don't really ask people who want kids why they want kids, right? In the way that if someone says no, you're like, well, why? Like, tell me, give me an explanation. And this is not to say that having kids is a bad idea, but I think it's just good to talk through anything, right? Especially a big decision like that with your partner. I've never had kids and I've never been married, but if you want kids for very different reasons, that might also come up, right? Even if you both want to have kids and that's not sort of the issue. And so, yeah, I love that. And I love that idea. Maybe she can like journal 15 years from now, do one version with Matt without kids, right? And then another version with kids, and even see how that feels for you, you know? Because I will say at 31 is so young. I kind of had a sense that I wanted kids, but I wasn't like, I didn't feel that biological clock at all. And now I'm 38 and it kind of only got stronger. This is not for all women. I'm not a medical expert, but it does, like, if that is in you and you do want kids, I think it will persist. Not it will. If it's already there, it could get even louder. You know, in my early 30s, I dated a lot of guys who were great boyfriends but didn't make great husbands. And I kind of do wish someone had been like, yes, you're young, but, you know, is this someone you want to build a life with? And so I do think you're doing the right thing by thinking about your future and wanting to make sure that you're with the right partner for that future. But yeah, I would have conversations with him and then more conversations with yourself.
I also think that the idea of kids feels like a very sensitive topic. And I don't think it should. And I think maybe that's part of like what this person can think about, is that there shouldn't be any judgment between either of you of what one person wants or what the other person wants. And it's almost like disconnecting how amazing your relationship is now from what you both want in the future. Because I don't know, I think it's like that is a hard conversation to have, but I don't think we need to be treating it as if it's something to like tiptoe around. I think that it seems like you have a great relationship and you can be honest with each other and keep asking questions. I think that's like seems to be the general consensus here.
100%. Talk it out. Such good advice. You guys should do a podcast. Oh my God, you do.
Listen to Far From the Tree.
Now we get it. Yes, everyone should go subscribe to Far From the Tree. Everyone should go watch all of the things that Tony Goldwyn is. Oh, and your upcoming episodes of Law and Order. Is that the...
Law and Order's on now, yes.
It's on now.
Season 25 of Law and Order. Not that I've been on for 25 years, but it's fun, yeah.
That's really fun. I adore you both. Thank you so much for coming in and making time
Thanks,
for Boy
Liz.
Problems.
So good to see you.
Yeah, and please come back. I would love that. I, as always, am reading through your comments and adore them. Laverna left a comment on our last episode of Hope Corps, where we interviewed Amanda Montell about cults. And she said, Liz, I think this episode is my favorite. A wonderful combo and Hope Corps galore. Amanda was such an interesting guest. Thank you for having her on. Love that. And then Bia wrote, I want to know more of her thoughts on white versus intersectional feminism. I do too. There was so much to talk about in that episode. I wish that interview could have lasted 3 hours longer. I think we should have her back and just literally have an episode just about that, because she, I agree. There was so much more to say. And then Simon left a comment that said, great episode. I'm in the cult of sweatpants and trashy TV. It has a real grip on me. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? It's 2025. I think if you are not in sweatpants and watching trashy TV, I want to know what medication you're on, because I want to get on it, because that is my medication right now. Thank you so much for watching the show, for leaving reviews. You propelled us to the top 10, which is wild, in the entire country, US of A. As a little French-Canadian immigrant, it means a lot to me that you all did this. And we will see you this Friday for our very special episode of Hope Corps. I can't wait to see you then. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.